All right, hello everybody. I am Pajama Charlie here, and I am going to be showing you how I put together this makeup look. I've never really considered makeup to be something I would do on this channel, but as I was walking around the con yesterday, a couple of things happened. The first one is that people just kept telling me I looked really good, which was incredibly flattering. I had done a lot of work on my makeup and done a lot of thinking about how I do all the different pieces, and it was very intentional, but I hadn't really thought that it was going to be that big of a hit. But there were moments where, I'd strike certain poses and I could just see in people's faces. And then my friend, said it aloud. He said, there are certain poses I would do that just looked like I was the character come to life. I thought that was incredibly kind of them to say. And if I'm onto something, I don't believe in keeping secrets. If I know something, I want to share it. So I seem to have struck gold. The other comment that I thought was just incredibly kind, I was standing in front of a booth just waiting for my friends to finish up. And so I was kind of standing there. It was later in the day, so I was sort of standing very still, kind of staring off into the distance. And then I kind of made eye contact with somebody, like somebody was looking at me. And so, I felt their eyes on me, and I made eye contact with them, and they kind of like they were like that. And then they kind of nervously came up to me, and they said that they had thought that I was a statue. Like they thought that I was like promotional art or something, which again, if somebody thought that this is promotional art for Hazbin Hotel, or like they're trying to sell something Hazbin Hotel related, that's incredibly flattering. So something very magical happened yesterday. All of my thinking about how to do my makeup clearly paid off. So I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how I got this done. This makeup works for Pajama Charlie. Yesterday I was just Charlie. So yeah, it works for all the Charlies. I'll be walking you through my decision-making process and my thought process, in addition to exactly what I did yesterday. So if you need to make alterations for your face shape, then you're going to be able to do that. So let's flip over to the version of me with no makeup on, and she'll take it from here. So I've actually never done a makeup tutorial video of any kind before, and I will say that one of the things about makeup tutorials that I think are a little bit hard to follow sometimes is that they work a little bit better for the person who's doing them than they work for necessarily everyone in general. So I'm going to work through my process more than I work through just what I did. And so I'm going to talk through a lot of why I made the decisions I made, so that if you have a different face shape or a different skin tone or skin color or anything like that, you can follow these in principle, even if I'm saying certain things that work for me that wouldn't necessarily work for you. So the first thing I do when I look at any character is I look how my face shape aligns with how their face is shaped. And for me versus Charlie Morningstar, there are four main things that are very different between my face and her face. One is that she has a very snatched little jaw, and I have more of it's just a little bit less defined than hers is. Not that she has a huge chin or anything, just that it's very, it's very pointed and it's defined. Second, the next two things I should say are that I have a little bit of hollowness, up here and here that Charlie just doesn't have. And I am going to be, doing some contour, kind of reverse contour from how a lot of people fashionably do it, because she doesn't have cheekbones the way I do. And the third thing is that, especially when you look at her from the side profile, she has a very ski slope nose, whereas I have just a very straight nose, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of contour on that. So this is as good a time as any to point out that I'm not going to be starting by painting my face white. I have some skin tone, this is just my normal foundation that I wear, and I'm going to be making some choices that are aligned with going lighter rather than staying in a neutral tone for me, but I'm not going to be painting my face white or anything like that. There's really no wrong way to do this, but I personally like to think about there being a platonic ideal of a character out there who is sometimes portrayed through cartoon and can also be portrayed through a human face. So the decisions I'm making are based on the fact that my medium is different than Vivian Medrano's. Some people like to paint their face white. Some people like to try and capture the cartoon character aesthetic. I'm not going to be doing that, so I'm going to be following in general strokes, having my base, one light, and a dark. And I'm really only going to use the dark on two spots because Charlie is so pale. She's just white as a sheet. She's a little ghost. I'm not trying to go neutral, I'm trying to go light. So where do I want dark? One of them is under the chin. I'm gonna snatch that back a little bit, kind of get that situation that Charlie has with her face completely separate from her neck. Just a little bit. There we go. Alright, so we've got it under the neck. The other place I'm going to put it, a lot of Charlie cosplayers like to put black under their nose. The reason for this is that Charlie is a cartoon character. The way you draw definition on a cartoon face is to use black outlining. Vivian Medrano uses black under the nose to show that Charlie has a nose. I'm, a human person with a flesh nose that is the strongest feature on my face. I don't need to outline it. I can pay homage to it with a little bit of dark under here, and that'll also help with the shaping later. But I'm personally not going to be putting black under my nose. Now again, there's no wrong way to do this. If you want to be completely cartoon accurate, then that is a way to cosplay. That's a way to do the makeup. So I've got two pieces of dark. From here on in, this is my light and my dark. So one thing that I see a lot, and I saw at the con yesterday, is that folks like to do makeup in the way that's popular and fashionable right now. So that means, really like snatching the cheekbones. I think that, especially if you're going for the full-on, if this character existed in the real world, what would they look like? Doing fashionable makeup makes a lot of sense. So again, there's no wrong way to do it. It just matters why you're making the choices that you are making. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be changing the shape of my face. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw light across my face, especially getting into this part right here where I have a little bit of hollowness, and bring it right across. And this does a couple of things. I'm going to put dark up here. That'll bring my face down a little bit and make my whole face just a little bit shorter. And this is going to be a little bit less than visible because I'm gonna have a big wig with, the bangs coming down. But for the sake of thoroughness, I've got my first piece here. I'm actually just going to go right on in and do under my eyes. It's day 3 of a con and I am tired. This is where things really start to depart from how people do their makeup. So you may have heard of that, like bronzer, you do the 3. I'm actually going to do the bottom half of my face in a big sweeping arc with my light. And the reason for that is, again, I have a lot of hollowness under my cheeks that Charlie doesn't have. So I basically, anywhere that I want to be a little bit rounder, I'm going to put my light, and anywhere that I want to recede back is where I'm going to put the dark. So everybody these days, they want the, the snatched cheekbones. Charlie does not have them. I have one more place, and that is right on the tip of my nose because, again, Charlie has a ski slope nose, and I do not. Alright, so now using my normal foundation as my dark, just basically anywhere that I didn't put makeup before. So across the top, that'll sort of disappear my forehead a little bit. Alright, I'm going to go right down the nose because she has a nice little ski slope nose that, disappears, again, back and then really pops out with the tip. I'm going to put the dark along my cheekbone because I have prominent cheekbones and I want them to be a little bit less pronounced. And then finally just around this area in here. Now again, I want to reiterate that if you have completely different facial features, to me, you're going to be doing completely different things than I just did. If you have very, very round cheeks, then you are going to do a little bit of contouring. If you have a very short face, then you might want to lengthen it a bit. If you have just the most snatched jaw, then leave it as it is. That is perfect for Charlie. So you can already see that I'm considerably lighter than my regular skin tone is. I am not going to be, again, inhumanly white. I am going to more or less still look like a person. The idea behind this is to lighten my skin a little bit, to pay homage to the fact that Charlie is as white as a sheet. But the main reason I'm doing this is to contour and to change the shape of my face a little bit. I've got our sponge. I'm gonna start. I've heard you're supposed to go low to high, so I guess we'll do that. So one thing that I saw a lot yesterday, and I'm not sure why they did this, is that they didn't bring their makeup all the way up into their hairline. Even if they were wearing wigs, you can just bring it all the way up, put your wig on, right? And this is especially noticeable if you're wearing something like, white grease paint. Anything that's not your skin tone is not going to be forgiving. So you've got to blend all the way in. So at this point, I've got my face shaped and shaded. Even though we just put makeup all over my face, Charlie does not put makeup over her face like that every day. She goes in with her eyes. That's the feature that she emphasizes the most. So let's go in with some of this sort of grayish color, kind of shimmery. I have hooded eyes, which sometimes makes doing these makeup looks a little difficult. But we're gonna do our best. Here's the thing, when I do makeup for myself, I do this thing where I start with light in the middle and I go to color on the outside, because when you have hooded eyes, it's a lot easier to go horizontal than it is to go vertical, because you just don't have that much space on the lid as somebody who has just a different kind of lid than I do. Charlie, I can tell by her makeup, she has a different kind of eyes. I think they're deep set, not 100% sure. All right, I think that's pretty good. It's not like perfectly symmetrical. So there's the first color, and then the second color, I'm just gonna take a green. You know, she has 3 colors. It's like gray, green, gray. If you want to think about it in terms of, you know, what would Charlie look like if she was actually a human being, then you can think of her as like a former goth kid. That's actually gonna come into play extra in the next phase, which is the eyeliner. Charlie spent the entire budget of the Hazbin Hotel on her own eyeliner. So, got gray, green, gray, gray, green, gray. And I like to go from the high features on my face to the low features, because if the dust falls, you know, I can do cleanup as I go. All right, so for this, I'm just using the Wet n Wild brand, and we're going to go in top lid, bottom lid, and then she also has this little like line that she does. I mean, she wears so much eyeliner. I'm trying to angle this so you can see. Can you see? So one thing that is always a concern to me when I do my makeup for a character like this, especially one with huge, you know, eye features, is that the more big dark makeup you have on, the smaller your eyes are going to look in contrast. The way that I like to start to strike that balance a little bit is to not go all the way into the corner, just give it a little bit of room to breathe. It's actually kind of the principle that I use when I do my regular makeup, with having the lighter colors on the inside and then the darker colors moving outward. So we're going to just keep drawing it bigger and bigger. In the bottom lid, I go about halfway across. I bring it out. Okay. So she has, I mean, it's kind of a cat eye. It's not really a cat eye. It's this like weird round thing. I have no idea if that's supposed to be her eyelashes. I have no idea if that's her eyeliner. And then the line on the side is her eyelashes. I don't know. I'm just gonna do the whole thing in eyeliner and then do my eyelashes. And here's where having a hooded eye is kind of an issue. I'm trying to draw a circle in and my stupid eyelid keeps snagging. So that's where we're gonna start with the upper lid. We might go bigger. Let's just see. All right, bottom lid, same deal. We're gonna grab right in here, pull it out, make a little loop. So that's kind of on the small side for Charlie. We're gonna leave it there for now. We're gonna do the other side. If it ends up completely lopsided, then we'll come back and fix it a little bit. But it's good to start small, because you can always add, especially after all we did on the contouring. You know, just start conservative and go from there. Oh man, I should have done this my first one. It's like so much easier to angle for the camera. It's not completely the same on both sides, so I'm just going to, oh. So much for breakup proof. I am going to kind of go back and forth on the sides just to kind of clean up, make sure that it's as even as possible. And if things get a little bigger, then things get a little bigger. That is okay for Princess Daddy issues. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. Now, I'm gonna do that little cat eye that she has in the corner. And that is it for Charlie's eyeliner. Go off a little mascara. I'm also gonna put mascara on my eyebrows just a little bit. If I was cosplaying a guy, I would go all out darkening them, making them bigger, bringing them in a little bit, flattening them. I'm not doing that, so I'm just gonna darken it up just a little bit because I got a lot of foundation in there earlier and I really want them to be able to, you know, articulate with. The other day when I was cosplaying as Angel Dust, I just went in with full-on black powder and just, you know. And that's it. It's really just not that much. Now we're going to move on to the most important part of any Charlie Morningstar look, and that is the blush that she does. She has these two like perfect circle stamps of the brightest blush that you will ever put on your face. I say it's blush and then I immediately start putting this hot pink eyeshadow on. I do it by feel. I freehand it, I do it by feel. Some people I've seen, you know, they'll trace something on their cheek. I don't do that. So yeah, I just kind of go in for just sort of 2/3 down my eye. It kind of depends on your face shape too, right? Depending on, you know, where you want to put it, where it's going to look good. And I just freehand my circles. I had somebody ask me yesterday, you know, how did I do them? Do I have any tips and tricks? Not really, just kind of maybe practice a couple times before the day of the con, so that you're not, you know, trying for the very first time, experimenting with colors and stuff. I can darken that up a little bit, but that's pretty much what I want. All right, and this is the part of the makeup where I start to look kind of like, well, my wife calls it Sexy Billy, like from Jigsaw. So I do this part by feel. I push in on this side and I get a muscle memory. I get like the feeling of what it feels like on this side. And then I bring it right over to this side. Right, all right, so that's gonna be the same on this side and on this side. It's really all just vibes. All right, there we go. We're gonna start with my little circle. All right, and that's my cheek circles. Finally, we got our lipstick. The bottom lip is gonna be a little shorter than my actual bottom lip. Charlie doesn't really have lips. Like, there's some shots where, you know, you can kind of see some definition. Others where she really doesn't have lips at all. I definitely got lips. So here's what we're gonna do. We're actually gonna overdraw the top one just a little bit, and that's kind of gonna give you that, like, it's like the Rankin and Bass like puppet perma smile. It's a bit of a liberty, but it does kind of fit the character, right? So I'm gonna overdraw the lip just a little bit. And the reason I say it's like a puppet is in the old Rankin and Bass videos, the models would actually be just one puppet on top, and then when they talked, because it's stop motion animation, they would actually change out the bottom jaw. So the top one is this perma smile, and then the bottom one, no matter what they're doing down here, the top is always this. I had a little oopsie where I did the thing where you know, with your lips, shouldn't have done that because it got the black all the way up there. So I am just going in with a little bit of, well, first the makeup remover wipe. Oops. And then I'm going in with my foam cube or foam triangle. Just sort of clean up a little bit. All right, and that is genuinely all there is to it. I'm gonna go put the wig on, and this is the final look. And let me know if you like this sort of experimental makeup tutorial kind of video. Obviously, it's my first one doing it, but I've done costume makeup for a couple of other characters. I could show you what my Renfest look is going to be like. For that, my wife and I do Road to El Dorado, and I'm Miguel and she's Tulio. So I'm going to do lots of really fun boy contouring for that. Let me know in the comments if you're interested, and I will see about doing that.